Welcome to the channel NextGen Tech Prep. In today's video, we are diving deep into essential questions and comprehensive answers for the Google Professional Cloud Security Engineer certification. Whether you're preparing for an exam or just looking to sharpen your knowledge, you're in the right place. If you find this content valuable, please hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell so you never miss an update. Now, let's get started.
Your company has been creating users manually in Cloud Identity to provide access to Google Cloud resources. Due to continued growth of the environment, you want to authorize the Google Cloud Directory Sync (GCDS) instance and integrate it with your on-premises LDAP server to onboard hundreds of users. You are required to replicate user and group lifecycle changes from the on-premises LDAP server in Cloud Identity. Disable any manually created users in Cloud Identity. You have already configured the LDAP search attributes to include the users and security groups in scope for Google Cloud. What should you do next to complete this solution? The options are: Option A, 1. Configure the option to suspend domain users not found in LDAP. 2. Set up a recurring GCDS task. Option B, 1. Configure the option to delete domain users not found in LDAP. 2. Run GCDS after user and group lifecycle changes. Option C, 1. Configure the LDAP search attributes to exclude manually created Cloud Identity users not found in LDAP. 2. Set up a recurring GCDS task. Option D, 1. Configure the LDAP search attributes to exclude manually created Cloud Identity users not found in LDAP. 2. Run GCDS after user and group lifecycle changes.
To arrive at the correct answer, we focus on the keywords: replicate user and group lifecycle changes, disable any manually created users.
The correct answer is option A, 1. Configure the option to suspend domain users not found in LDAP. 2. Set up a recurring GCDS task.
Why is this correct? A. Suspending users not found in LDAP achieves the requirement to disable manually created users. Setting up a recurring GCDS task ensures continuous replication of user and group lifecycle changes automatically. Why are the others incorrect? B. Deleting users is destructive and unnecessary when disabling, suspending, is specifically required. Running GCDS manually is inefficient for continuous replication compared to a recurring task. C. Excluding users via LDAP search attributes prevents synchronization, but does not actively disable the existing manually created users in Cloud Identity as required by the prompt. D. Excluding users via LDAP search attributes does not actively disable them. Furthermore, manually running GCDS is not an efficient or automated way to continuously replicate lifecycle changes.
You are the security admin in your company. You want to synchronize all security groups that have an email address from your LDAP directory in Cloud IAM. What should you do? The options are: Option A. Configure Google Cloud Directory Sync to sync security groups using LDAP search rules that have user email address as the attribute to facilitate one-way sync. Option B. Configure Google Cloud Directory Sync to sync security groups using LDAP search rules that have user email address as the attribute to facilitate bidirectional sync. Option C. Use a management tool to sync the subset based on the email address attribute. Create a group in the Google domain. A group created in a Google domain will automatically have an explicit Google Cloud Identity and Access Management (IAM) role. Option D. Use a management tool to sync the subset based on group object class attribute. Create a group in the Google domain. A group created in a Google domain will automatically have an explicit Google Cloud Identity and Access Management (IAM) role.
To arrive at the correct answer, we focus on the keywords: synchronize all security groups, have an email address, LDAP directory, Cloud IAM.
The correct answer is option A. Configure Google Cloud Directory Sync to sync security groups using LDAP search rules that have user email address as the attribute to facilitate one-way sync.
Why is this correct? A. Google Cloud Directory Sync, GCDS, is the recommended tool for syncing users and groups from LDAP to Google Cloud. GCDS performs a one-way synchronization from your LDAP directory, the source of truth, to Google Cloud, ensuring changes are reflected appropriately. Why are the others incorrect? B. GCDS always performs a one-way synchronization from the LDAP directory to Google Cloud. Bidirectional sync is not supported, as the LDAP directory is meant to be the authoritative source of truth. C. Creating a group in the Google domain does not automatically grant it any explicit Cloud IAM roles. IAM roles must be explicitly assigned to the group after creation. D. Similar to C, groups created in a Google domain do not automatically receive explicit IAM roles. Furthermore, the question specifically asks to synchronize groups that have an email address.
A customer has 300 engineers. The company wants to grant different levels of access and efficiently manage IAM permissions between users in the development and production environment projects. Which two steps should the company take to meet these requirements? Choose two. The options are: Option A, create a project with multiple VPC networks for each environment. Option B, create a folder for each development and production environment. Option C, create a Google group for the engineering team and assign permissions at the folder level. Option D, create an organizational policy constraint for each folder environment. Option E, create projects for each environment and grant IAM rights to each engineering user.
To arrive at the correct answer, we focus on the keywords: 300 engineers, grant different levels of access, efficiently manage IAM permissions, development and production environment projects.
The correct answers are Option B, create a folder for each development and production environment. And Option C, create a Google group for the engineering team and assign permissions at the folder level.
Why is this correct? B. Folders group related projects, like development and production, enabling you to apply IAM policies at the folder level for efficient administration and strong isolation between environments. C. Using a Google group is the most efficient way to manage access for 300 engineers. Assigning permissions at the folder level ensures the policies propagate to all underlying projects. Why are the others incorrect? A. Creating a single project with multiple VPC networks does not provide adequate IAM isolation between development and production environments, as IAM is generally managed at the project or folder level. D. Organizational policy constraints restrict resource configurations, like allowed regions, rather than managing user access or IAM permissions. Why are the others incorrect? E. Granting IAM rights to each individual user instead of using a group is highly inefficient and creates significant administrative overhead for 300 engineers.
You need to enforce a security policy in your Google Cloud organization that prevents users from exposing objects in their buckets externally. There are currently no buckets in your organization. Which solution should you implement proactively to achieve this goal with the least operational overhead? The options are: Option A, create an hourly cron job to run a cloud function that finds public buckets and makes them private. Option B, enable the constraints/storage.public access prevention constraint at the organization level. Option C, enable the constraints/storage.uniform bucket level access constraint at the organization level. Option D, create a VPC Service Controls perimeter that protects the storage.googleapis.com service in your projects that contains buckets. Add any new project that contains a bucket to the perimeter.
To arrive at the correct answer, we focus on the keywords: enforce a security policy in your Google Cloud organization, prevents users from exposing objects in their buckets externally, proactively, least operational overhead.
The correct answer is Option B, enable the constraints/storage.public access prevention constraint at the organization level.
Why is this correct? B. Enabling the constraints/storage.public access prevention organization policy proactively prevents all current and future buckets from being exposed publicly, achieving the goal centrally with the least operational overhead. Why are the others incorrect? A. A scheduled cloud function is reactive, not proactive, leaving a time window for exposure. It also introduces unnecessary operational overhead to maintain custom code. C. Uniform bucket level access enforces IAM policies uniformly across the bucket but does not inherently prevent a user with sufficient permissions from granting public access. D. VPC Service Controls introduces significant operational overhead compared to a simple organization policy. Requiring manual addition of new projects violates the requirement for least overhead.
Your company is moving to Google Cloud. You plan to sync your users first by using Google Cloud Directory Sync, GCDS. Some employees have already created Google Cloud accounts by using their company email addresses that were created outside of GCDS. You must create your users on Cloud Identity. What should you do? The options are: Option A, configure GCDS and use GCDS search rules to sync these users. Option B, use the transfer tool to migrate unmanaged users. Option C, write a custom script to identify existing Google Cloud users and call the admin SDK, directory API to transfer their account. Option D, configure GCDS and use GCDS exclusion rules to ensure users are not suspended.
To arrive at the correct answer, we focus on the keywords Google Cloud Directory Sync, GCDS, already created Google Cloud accounts outside of GCDS, create your users on Cloud Identity.
The correct answer is option B, use the transfer tool to migrate unmanaged users.
Why is this correct? B. The transfer tool for unmanaged users is the Google recommended method for migrating personal consumer accounts, unmanaged users, into your managed Cloud Identity or Google Workspace environment securely. Why are the others incorrect? A. GCDS search rules are used to query the LDAP server to determine which users to sync. They do not migrate existing unmanaged consumer accounts into Cloud Identity. C. Writing custom scripts using the directory API is unnecessarily complex because Google provides a built-in unmanaged user transfer tool specifically designed for this purpose. D. GCDS exclusion rules prevent specified users from being suspended or deleted during a directory sync, but they do not migrate or convert existing unmanaged user accounts.
You need to follow Google recommended practices to leverage envelope encryption and encrypt data at the application layer. What should you do? The options are: Option A, generate a data encryption key, DEK, locally to encrypt the data, and generate a new key encryption key, KEK, in Cloud KMS to encrypt the DEK. Store both the encrypted data and the encrypted DEK. Option B, generate a data encryption key, DEK, locally to encrypt the data, and generate a new key encryption key, KEK, in Cloud KMS to encrypt the DEK. Store both the encrypted data and the KEK. Option C, generate a new data encryption key, DEK, in Cloud KMS to encrypt the data, and generate a key encryption key, KEK, locally to encrypt the key. Store both the encrypted data and the encrypted DEK. Option D, generate a new data encryption key, DEK, in Cloud KMS to encrypt the data, and generate a key encryption key, KEK, locally to encrypt the key. Store both the encrypted data and the KEK.
To arrive at the correct answer, we focus on the keywords Google recommended practices, envelope encryption, encrypt data at the application layer.
The correct answer is option A, generate a data encryption key, DK, locally to encrypt the data, and generate a new key encryption key, KEK, in Cloud KMS to encrypt the DK. Store both the encrypted data and the encrypted DK.
Why is this correct? A. For envelope encryption, a DEK is generated locally to encrypt application data. A KEK managed in Cloud KMS then encrypts the DEK. You must store the encrypted data alongside the encrypted DEK for future decryption. Why are the others incorrect? B. This is incorrect because the KEK is securely managed within Cloud KMS and should not be stored alongside the encrypted data. You must store the encrypted DEK, not the KEK. C. This reverses the recommended architecture. The DEK should be generated locally at the application layer to encrypt the data, while the KEK must be managed centrally within Cloud KMS to encrypt the DEK. D. This approach incorrectly generates the DEK in Cloud KMS and the KEK locally. Google recommends generating the DEK locally and managing the KEK in KMS. Also, you should store the encrypted DEK, not the KEK.
Your security team wants to implement a defense-in-depth approach to protect sensitive data stored in a cloud storage bucket. Your team has the following requirements. The cloud storage bucket in Project A can only be readable from Project B. Cloud storage bucket in Project A cannot be accessed from outside the network. Data in the cloud storage bucket cannot be copied to an external cloud storage bucket. What should the security team do? The options are: Option A, enable domain-restricted sharing in an organization policy, and enable uniform bucket-level access on the cloud storage bucket. Option B, enable VPC Service Controls, create a perimeter around projects A and B, and include the Cloud Storage API in the service perimeter configuration. Option C, enable private access in both Project A and B's networks with strict firewall rules that allow communication between the networks. Option D, enable VPC peering between Project A and B's networks with strict firewall rules that allow communication between the networks.
To arrive at the correct answer, we focus on the keywords: protect sensitive data stored in a cloud storage bucket. Cloud storage bucket in Project A can only be readable from Project B. Cloud storage bucket in Project A cannot be accessed from outside the network. Data in the cloud storage bucket cannot be copied to an external cloud storage bucket.
The correct answer is option B, enable VPC Service Controls, create a perimeter around projects A and B, and include the Cloud Storage API in the service perimeter configuration.
Why is this correct? The VPC Service Controls creates a security perimeter mitigating data exfiltration risks. It restricts Cloud Storage API access, allowing Project A's bucket to be readable only from Project B, blocking external network access, and preventing data copying to external buckets. Why are the others incorrect? A. Domain-restricted sharing and uniform bucket-level access govern identity-based access. They do not establish network-level perimeters to block external network access or prevent data exfiltration to external cloud storage buckets. C. Private Google access enables VMs to reach Google APIs, and firewall rules control VM traffic. However, firewall rules apply to VPC resources, not to the Cloud Storage API, so they cannot restrict bucket access or prevent external data copying. Why are the others incorrect? D. VPC peering connects networks, but cloud storage is a global API, not a VPC resource. Firewall rules control VM traffic and cannot enforce network restrictions or prevent data exfiltration on cloud storage buckets.
An organization is migrating from their current on-premises productivity software systems to G Suite. Some network security controls were in place that were mandated by a regulatory body in their region for their previous on-premises system. The organization's risk team wants to ensure that network security controls are maintained and effective in G Suite. A security architect supporting this migration has been asked to ensure that network security controls are in place as part of the new shared responsibility model between the organization and Google Cloud. What solution would help meet the requirements? The options are: Option A, ensure that firewall rules are in place to meet the required controls. Option B, set up Cloud Armor to ensure that network security controls can be managed for G Suite. Option C, network security is a built-in solution and Google's cloud responsibility for SaaS products like G Suite. Option D, set up an array of virtual private cloud (VPC) networks to control network security as mandated by the relevant regulation.
To arrive at the correct answer, we focus on the keywords G Suite, Network Security Controls, Shared Responsibility Model.
The correct answer is option C. Network security is a built-in solution and Google's cloud responsibility for SaaS products like G Suite.
Why is this correct? See, in the shared responsibility model for SaaS products like G Suite, Google fully manages and is responsible for the underlying network security and infrastructure controls. Why are the others incorrect? A. Customers cannot configure firewall rules for G Suite because Google manages the network infrastructure as part of its SaaS offering. B. Cloud Armor is a web application firewall designed to protect workloads deployed on Google Cloud, not fully managed SaaS products like G Suite. D. Customers cannot deploy VPC networks to control G Suite traffic, as its underlying network infrastructure is abstracted and managed entirely by Google.
An organization receives an increasing number of phishing emails. Which method should be used to protect employee credentials in this situation? The options are Option A, multi-factor authentication. Option B, a strict password policy. Option C, CAPTCHA on login pages. Option D, encrypted emails.
To arrive at the correct answer, we focus on the keywords phishing emails, protect employee credentials.
The correct answer is option A, multi-factor authentication.
Why is this correct? A. Multi-factor authentication requires a secondary form of verification. Even if an employee unknowingly gives their credentials to a phishing site, attackers cannot access the account without this additional factor. Why are the others incorrect? B. A strict password policy ensures complex passwords but does not prevent users from inadvertently revealing them to attackers in a phishing campaign. C. CAPTCHA is used to prevent automated bot attacks on login pages. It does not protect against human attackers using credentials stolen via phishing. D. Encrypting emails protects message content from interception, but it does not stop employees from clicking malicious links and voluntarily submitting their credentials.
You want to limit the images that can be used as the source for boot disks. These images will be stored in a dedicated project. What should you do? The options are Option A, use the organization policy service to create a compute.trusted image projects constraint on the organization level. List the trusted project as the whitelist in an allow operation. Option B, use the organization policy service to create a compute.trusted image projects constraint on the organization level. List the trusted projects as the exceptions in a deny operation. Option C, in Resource Manager, edit the project permissions for the trusted project. Add the organization as member with the role, compute image user. Option D, in Resource Manager, edit the organization permissions. Add the project ID as member with the role, compute image user.
To arrive at the correct answer, we focus on the keywords limit the images, source for boot disks, stored in a dedicated project.
The correct answer is option A, use the organization policy service to create a compute.trusted image projects constraint on the organization level. List the trusted project as the whitelist in an allow operation.
Why is this correct? A. The compute.trusted image projects organization policy constraint restricts which image projects can be used for boot disks. Configuring this constraint at the organization level with an allow list is the correct method to ensure only images from the dedicated project are permitted. Why are the others incorrect? B. While the constraint is correct, using a deny operation with exceptions is the wrong approach. An allow list is the standard and secure way to specify trusted image projects. C. Granting the compute image user role allows access to use images but does not enforce a restriction on which images can be used as boot disk sources across the organization. D. A project ID cannot be granted an IAM role as a member at the organization level in this manner, and IAM roles do not enforce organization-wide restrictions on boot disk image sources.
Applications often require access to secrets, small pieces of sensitive data at build or runtime. The administrator managing these secrets on GCP wants to keep a track of who did what, where, and when, within their GCP projects. Which two log streams would provide the information that the administrator is looking for? Choose two. The options are Option A, Admin Activity Logs. Option B, System Event Logs. Option C, Data Access Logs. Option D, VPC Flow Logs. Option E, Agent Logs.
To arrive at the correct answer, we focus on the keywords, access to secrets, who did what, where, and when, log streams.
The correct answers are Option A, Admin Activity Logs, and Option C, Data Access Logs.
Why is this correct? A. Admin activity logs record administrative actions that modify the configuration or metadata of resources, identifying who made structural changes. C. Data access logs record user-driven API calls that read, create, or modify user-provided resource data, capturing who accessed the secret payloads. Why are the others incorrect? B. System event logs record actions taken by Google Cloud systems rather than user-driven activities, making them unsuitable for tracking user actions. D. VPC flow logs monitor network traffic passing through VM instances, which does not provide audit trails for API access to secrets. E. Agent logs collect system and application logs from within compute instances, not the centralized audit logs needed to track IAM and API actions.
You are the project owner for a regulated workload that runs in a project you own and manage as an identity and access management (IAM) admin. For an upcoming audit, you need to provide access reviews evidence. Which tool should you use? The options are Option A, Policy Troubleshooter. Option B, Policy Analyzer. Option C, IAM Recommender. Option D, Policy Simulator.
To arrive at the correct answer, we focus on the keywords, upcoming audit, provide access reviews evidence.
The correct answer is Option B, Policy Analyzer.
Why is this correct? B. Policy Analyzer allows you to query who has access to what resources. This comprehensive view of IAM policies is exactly what is needed to provide evidence for access reviews during an audit. Why are the others incorrect? A. Policy Troubleshooter helps determine why a specific principal has or lacks access to a single resource. It is not designed to generate the broad access reports needed for an audit. C. IAM Recommender suggests removing excess permissions based on past usage. While useful for least privilege, it does not generate the comprehensive access review evidence required for an audit. D. Policy Simulator allows you to test the potential impact of proposed IAM policy changes before applying them. It is not used for generating current access reviews or audit evidence.
A customer wants to make it convenient for their mobile workforce to access a CRM web interface that is hosted on Google Cloud Platform, GCP. The CRM can only be accessed by someone on the corporate network. The customer wants to make it available over the internet. Your team requires an authentication layer in front of the application that supports two-factor authentication. Which GCP product should the customer implement to meet these requirements? The options are Option A, Cloud Identity Aware Proxy. Option B, Cloud Armor. Option C, Cloud Endpoints. Option D, Cloud VPN.
To arrive at the correct answer, we focus on the keywords, access a CRM web interface, hosted on Google Cloud Platform, GCP, available over the internet, authentication layer in front of the application, supports two-factor authentication.
The correct answer is Option A, Cloud Identity Aware Proxy.
Why is this correct? A. Cloud Identity Aware Proxy, IAP, controls access to applications by verifying user identity and context. It acts as an authentication layer for internet-facing web apps and integrates with Cloud Identity, fully supporting two-factor authentication requirements without needing a VPN. Why are the others incorrect? B. Cloud Armor is a web application firewall, WAF, and DDoS mitigation service designed to protect against web-based attacks. It does not provide user authentication or two-factor authentication capabilities. C. Cloud Endpoints is an API management platform used to secure, monitor, and analyze APIs. It is not designed to act as an authentication layer for human users accessing a web UI. Why are the others incorrect? D. Cloud VPN connects an on-premises network to a GCP VPC network via IPsec. While it grants network access, the requirement asks to make the app available over the internet with an authentication layer, which IAP solves natively.
A customer wants to run a batch processing system on VMs and store the output files in a cloud storage bucket. The networking and security teams have decided that no VMs may reach the public internet. How should this be accomplished? The options are: Option A, create a firewall rule to block internet traffic from the VM. Option B, provision a NAT gateway to access the cloud storage API endpoint. Option C, enable private Google access. Option D, mount a cloud storage bucket as a local file system on every VM.
To arrive at the correct answer, we focus on the keywords VMs, cloud storage bucket. No VMs may reach the public internet.
The correct answer is option C, enable private Google access.
Why is this correct? C. Private Google access allows VM instances to reach Google APIs and services, such as cloud storage, using internal IP addresses, fulfilling the strict requirement that VMs do not reach the public internet. Why are the others incorrect? A. Blocking internet traffic with a firewall rule prevents internet access but does not provide the required route for VMs to access Google APIs like cloud storage without external IPs. B. A NAT gateway allows resources without external IPs to access the public internet. This directly violates the strict requirement that no VMs may reach the public internet. D. Mounting a cloud storage bucket as a local file system requires underlying network access to Google APIs. Without public internet access, this will fail unless private Google access is enabled.
Your organization's Google Cloud VMs are deployed via an instance template that configures them with a public IP address in order to host web services for external users. The VMs reside in a service project that is attached to a host, VPC, project containing one custom shared VPC for the VMs. You have been asked to reduce the exposure of the VMs to the internet while continuing to service external users. You have already recreated the instance template without a public IP address configuration to launch the Managed Instance Group, MIG. What should you do? The options are: Option A, deploy a Cloud NAT gateway in the service project for the MIG. Option B, deploy a Cloud NAT gateway in the host, VPC, project for the MIG. Option C, deploy an external HTTPS load balancer in the service project with the MIG as a backend. Option D, deploy an external HTTPS load balancer in the host, VPC, project with the MIG as a backend.
To arrive at the correct answer, we focus on the keywords host web services for external users, service project, host, VPC, project containing one custom shared VPC, reduce the exposure of the VMs to the internet, without a public IP address.
The correct answer is option C, deploy an external HTTPS load balancer in the service project with the MIG as a backend.
Why is this correct? C. An external HTTPS load balancer allows external users to access the web services without assigning public IPs directly to the VMs. In a shared VPC environment, the load balancer and backend MIG are created in the service project. Why are the others incorrect? A. Cloud NAT provides outbound internet access for internal VMs, but it does not allow inbound connections required to host web services for external users. B. Cloud NAT is designed for outbound internet connections, not for routing inbound internet traffic to web services. It does not solve the external user access requirement. D. In a shared VPC design, you deploy the external HTTPS load balancer in the service project alongside the MIG, rather than in the host project which only manages the network.